Hey, you guys, what's going on? It's your girl Vanessa Cabrera here, and I am. I've been waiting for this one. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I have been waiting for this day for a while. As she's laughing in the background. um, so if you guys are watching this live, go ahead and drop a comment in the chat box. If you guys are watching the replay, go ahead and comment replay so we can chat with you guys. If you guys have questions for my guest, go ahead and drop them too. Um, so I've known this woman for, oh my gosh, what is it? 3, 4 years, something along those lines.
About
We've
four
been
years.
3, 4 years. Okay. And we've been working together for two. And let me tell you when I say that this woman has one of the biggest hearts. She's incredibly kind. Um, Her work ethic knocks me out. And I think I get a lot done in one day. This woman not only provides social emotional learning for kids, empowers kids, that's her passion. She has books, journals, stickers. She is a speaker. She has a foundation, all kinds of things, which we'll get into all of that. But I've been waiting for this day for a while because, frankly, I knew it would come. I didn't know if she knew it would come, if she believed the day would come. But I knew this day would come where I'd be able to spotlight her and talk about all the work that she's done to get to where she is today. So with that, I'm just going to bring her on. Let's bring her on. Hello, hello, Stacey. There she is. So,
Hello, hello.
hi. All right. So, before we jump in, why don't you take the time and just introduce yourself?
Okay, so Stacey Montgomery, and my company is Stacey M Design, and I am a social emotional learning innovator. And what that means is that I create innovative SEL materials that help kids feel confident and to help create stronger, inclusive communities. And my materials can be used both at home and at school. So that's what I do.
Yes, that's what she does. So let's get into it. How did you get started with this, Stacy? First of all, tell them how long you've been in business and how you got started with this.
Okay, I've been in business for over 20 years. I've been doing the SEL stuff for about 4 years. My program, I began my curriculum, I launched at the end of 2019, but I've had my business, Stasium Design, for over 20 years. And it's called, some people wonder why I call it Stasium Design when what I do is publish books and I create a curricula for school. Well, it's
Right.
called Stasium Design because when I first started many, many, many years ago, it was a design business. I'm also an illustrator, so I created stationery and gifts featuring my illustrations. My illustrations had kids with different skin tones, different hair colors,
Hmm.
different hairstyles. Some had glasses, some had hearing aids, some used wheelchairs. It was all about making sure that kids saw positive images that they could identify with out in the marketplace.
Right.
And way back then, when I first started, I didn't use the words confidence. I didn't use the word empowering. But fast forward a number of years, I figured out that that's exactly what it was about. Because when we see positive images of ourselves, whether it's in the media or in gift shops or wherever in books, it's really confidence building. Is really empowering.
Yeah.
So fast forward, to several years when I became a mom, got married, became a mom, and I have a son. He's now 21, but he struggled in school. He struggled with confidence. He struggled with feeling different. He struggled because he did not feel welcome in school. And
Mhm.
so, I went through all that with him. It wasn't easy. The schools, though they were very well intentioned,
Hmm.
did not really help him very much with some of his struggles. And in fact, some of the efforts had the opposite effect of making him feel less empowered and making him less happy with who he was. And and that's wrong. And that was very
Hmm.
troubling for me. I didn't really connect at all until after he graduated. I finally kind of connected it a couple years ago after he graduated, as to what they were doing wrong. And what they were doing wrong, in my opinion, is that um, they took him out of class, and they had put him in like social skills groups, which was fine. He
Hmm.
did need to improve his social skills. I didn't have a problem with that. But the message that they gave him and the other kids who had special needs, who had disabilities, who had IEPs, was that the reasons that they were not successful socially, that didn't have a whole lot of friends, that they were teased, that they were bullied,
Right.
was something about themselves, and they made them feel, again, they didn't say this outright, but it was the subtle message was that if you pretty much changed yourself so that you were more like those other kids, you will be more palatable to them, and they would be your friend.
Oh
And and
God.
and you know what? When it finally kind of hit me, I was like, okay, maybe I'm just being super sensitive. Maybe I'm imagining this. Maybe this isn't really what was happening. But you know what? I talk to other moms, now, moms who have kids who are, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, who are in school now.
Yeah.
And they're like, yes, that's exactly what's going on. So I developed my first SEL program in 2019. I published my first book in 2017, but my first official SEL program I created in 2019, and it's based on my book called Why is Different Awesome, and the program has the same name. And the purpose of the program was to help kids understand, teach kids to embrace what is unique and special about them.
Yeah.
So if it is that they wear glasses, that they have a particular diagnosis, whether it's dyslexia, ADHD, if they're on a spectrum, Down syndrome, whatever it is, that's who you are.
Right.
It's not going to change.
Right.
It's not going to change. You're black. I'm always going to be black. My son was always going to be black.
Right.
It is what it is.
It
And,
doesn't rub off?
so
Like my brown is not going to rub off.
it's not. It is what it is.
Right.
And that is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So kids all need to embrace themselves. This is who I am. I love me, and I don't really care about, what other people are saying.
Yeah.
So the program, for the first thing it does is to teach kids that just love who they are as they are. The second thing that it teaches, it encourages kids to respect differences in others. Now, I do not believe at all that you have to be friends with everybody.
Right.
That's not realistic, and that's fine.
It's not real
But
life. Not all kids are going to vibe, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the program teaches kids just not to be jerks to other kids.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that.
It's
I'm
as
gonna use
simple as
those
that.
terms. I'm gonna use that term in the program. But it's about respect. But it also is about understanding that you can be friends with kids who seem like they're not like you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if you're black, you give a white friend. If you're white, you give a black friend. If you if you have a disability, and if you don't have a disability, you can be friends with a kid who does. And so it helps. So the program teaches kids to respect differences in others and to focus on the facts. And when you have A and B, A being embracing what is unique about yourself, and B is respecting differences in others, you get C. And the third thing is C is that you create a stronger, inclusive community within that school. And so that
Yes.
is what my program is designed to do.
Wow. So you built this whole program, this whole business based off of what your son went through, and you actually
Based
did
on
something about it.
yes,
Yeah,
based on what my son went through, and a little bit about what I went through, this feeling, sometimes, very different and unaccepted. But, I mean, you're a mom, so you know how,
yeah,
when your kid is struggling, that can drive you.
yeah,
It drives you more than your own struggles.
yeah.
So,
Right.
so yes. So people ask me, what is your why? And I'm sure, if you're a business owner, people ask you that, like, what is your why? And, yes, my son is my why, but he's only part of my why.
Hmm.
My why is I don't want other kids to have the same experience that he had.
Yeah.
So I do this for him, kind of like in honor of him, but I do it for the kids who are in elementary, middle, and high school now. My program is directed toward elementary school students, but if you get the foundation, you can carry it, as you get older. So my why is for all the other kids who are just living through this struggle, going to school. Can you imagine going to school every day and just dreading it?
Let
Not
me
because
tell
of
you,
academics.
I got bullied in
Mhm.
junior high, and it sucked. It absolutely sucked. And it's exactly what you said. I dreaded going to school. I was afraid. It wasn't enjoyable. All of the things. All
Yeah,
of the things.
you
There's
don't
nothing
feel
I could do
safe.
about it. Right back then, there wasn't any of this. Like, I just didn't
Nope.
even know. I don't even think I told my parents, to be honest with you. I was just like handling it. And then, to be honest with you, one day I flipped out and had enough and went off.
And that is what happens a
And
lot.
that's what happened. I went off. And I won't say what I did to this girl, but I got in trouble for fighting. I had
Well,
had it. I had had it up to here because I wasn't taught how to stand up to myself, and the level of fear and embarrassment and shame,
yeah,
all the stuff, that this stuff was just not available. Like, there's a little talk about bullying, but not a lot. Like, not that even I can like remember that made an impression, an imprint on me.
right.
Um, so the fact that like you're providing this and have this, and we're able to teach kids at such a young age when th're so damn impressionable, and they're like
Hmm.
little sponges, right? Before the rest of the world gets to them. Right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It's easier, when they are younger. And you hit on a few things. You hit on one thing, that you don't think you told your parents.
Yeah.
Kids, after that is common, that they don't tell their parents, they don't tell an adult, they don't tell a teacher. Um, they suffer in silence, they
They
internalize
suffer
it.
in silence. Yes.
And
It's
that's
embarrassing.
one
They don't want to be bullied. They don't want to be
exactly.
embarrassed, right? Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that the basis for my SEL program is journaling. I have these guided journals because it is well established the therapeutic qualities of journaling.
Yeah.
And so through these guided journals, and by guided journals, I mean they have prompts.
Okay.
Through the guided journals, kids self-reflect. And when you write things down, you start to work through a little bit those big emotions.
Hmm.
And then, with the encouragement of not only your teacher, but other kids, you start opening up, because my program involves three parts. First, the teaching, where the teacher, gives the learning,
Right.
and which involves a dialogue between the student and the teacher. And then there's the journaling, and then after the journaling, there's the sharing. So kids are encouraged but not required to share, either read what they wrote or describe what they wrote. And the purpose of that is to get a dialogue going on between students, among students.
Yeah. Right.
But when you put things down, pen to paper, that action of putting things down and thinking about it, reflecting, leads to conversation.
Yeah.
And I've had moms tell me, you know what, my kid told me this, and I had no idea. I mean, good things and not so good things,
I
but they're like,
know.
I had no idea. And so that's one thing which you touched on. The other thing which you touched on, you talked about the emotions that you felt, as a person, a victim of bullying.
Yeah.
And we talk about that as well. We talk about all those emotions. There's an entire, section in the book and in the program describing, whether it's anger, fear, embarrassment, you feel unloved, you feel unsafe, all these things. And we talk about that a lot. The program is designed to go over that a lot, because we want, everyone to really think about how it feels when somebody's mean to you.
Yeah.
We don't have to. We do. There's a section on bullying, but we also just talk about being mean when someone was just unkind to you. Because everybody has experienced that. A lot of kids will not say that they've been bullied, but everybody has been, the subject or the victim of unkind behavior, of mean behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at that. Okay, so how did you feel when your older sister teased you? How do you feel when the kid down the block, pushed you or whatever,
Right.
said called your name? How did you feel? So we talk about that a lot because we really want all the kids to think about the emotion, and then the question is, okay, so this is how you felt. Do you really want to cause somebody else to feel that way? Or do you think it's okay if somebody else does something to another kid and this is how they feel? Because it's about, bully prevention, but it's also about standing up for others. There's a whole section on being an upstander.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the program is pretty deep when it goes, when it comes to those things.
I love it. I've been not struggling with it, but it's, as a mom to Mateo, who is my 7-year-old son,
Mm-hmm.
we have been talking about this a lot more ever since I got NLP certified,
Mm-hmm.
because all those experiences that you internalize then gets captured up here, right? But you don't know how to fix it. Trying to stop those and really understanding that in the beginning, right? So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we've talked about is, I've told him, when someone bullies you or someone's mean to you, it's usually someone because someone hurt him first. So there's a hurt underlying with the mad. And
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't feel as harsh. And these are just things that I've learned.
Right.
He looks at it a little differently than someone just being like, they were mean to me
I
or they
mean,
bored me. Like
yeah, like,
someone hurt him first. So it's really not me. He's projecting his
mm-hmm.
hurt, his fear, his anger, those things.
Yeah.
But this is something, that could be difficult for parents to even acknowledge or know how to talk to their kids about, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
why this program is essential. I wish I had this program growing up. And by the way, you have a super
Yeah.
fan showing up. Hello, Brittany.
Hey, Brittany.
Brittany's make sure to check out Stacey Design. Brittany's always so supportive.
So
God bless her.
supportive.
And we love you,
So
Brittany.
supportive.
Yeah, look at her. So important, bullying. Yes, girl. All the love Brittany gives. I'm like, who's giving all this love while you were talking? Of course it's Brittany. Of course it is, right? All right, so let's get into, so you have this program, you have this passion,
Mm-hmm.
you're very clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yes.
why you created it, who it's for, all the
Mm-hmm.
things. And so then let's get into when it came to actually getting your program out there, connecting with people, getting your messaging out there. What was going on? What were you struggling with when it came to
Mm-hmm.
putting yourself out there, speaking about it, social media stuff, all that stuff?
Right. Okay, so my ideal client is an elementary school principal. And so my struggle was connecting with an elementary school principal, with my ideal client. That was very difficult. So it's challenging in general.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call a principal, pick up the phone, have a conversation, and then say, yeah, sign me up. That just isn't the way it works. And what made it even more difficult was that I'm started to market my program at the very end of 2019. And I had this big plan for 2020, but we know what happened early on in 2020,
Yeah.
pandemic and then the lockdown. And so
I
as a
remember
result
the
of
plan.
that,
We were all, it was all there.
exactly.
Yes. Hmm.
Exactly. And so, a part of my plan was to go to conferences and be a vendor, perhaps, speak. But, it was all of this in-person stuff,
Hmm.
which that went out the window. Most conferences were canceled. Some went virtual toward the end of the year, but for all intents and purposes, that wasn't possible. So I had to, social media was always going to be a part of my plan, but I had to rely on it much more heavily, and in a different way than I had planned. And coincidentally, that was when I started to work with you.
Hmm.
In your program, ATM. And so the struggle was reaching my ideal client through social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
We had to switch it up. Right. So that
Yes.
was the issue. Um, and let me tell you one thing about Stacey is that, and this is what I said about your work ethic is,
Mhm.
like we had this plan laid out. I'm like, okay, it's clear, it's laid out, right? COVID hit, whatnot, and then whoosh, everyone went online, right? We just had to, but thank
Yes.
God we had this
Yes.
option, right?
Yes.
So,
Exactly.
dare I
Hmm.
say, it forced you a little bit more, right, to
Hmm.
go onto social media and figure it out. So you and I sat down, we kind of figured it out. Where's your
Yes.
ideal client, right? And I'm going to be honest with the audience because this is what it's all about is that Stacey's ideal client, which is principals, is not an easy audience to connect with, okay? It can get easier and it is
Hmm.
getting easier, right?
Hmm. It is.
It
Hmm.
is getting easier. Um, but in the very beginning, she's just like, principals are just not very active and, all these things. And I'm like, okay. So we worked on it. And one of the things that I said to her, I'm like, consistency counts.
Yes.
Consistency counts, number one.
Absolutely.
And number two is that you got to show up confident in this program that they need
Hmm.
you, right?
Yep.
This program is beyond important for you guys who are watching this. I mean, can you imagine having all these schools with this program at such an early age? What a difference this program would have, not only in the lives of kids, but teachers, principals, like you said, the community of that school,
Hmm.
right? And so,
Yes.
so that's one of the things that Stacey and I worked on, where she was getting frustrated, you were getting
I was
frustrated.
getting frustrated.
She was getting very frustrated. Let's be honest with them. She's like, Vanessa, it's not working, right?
Yes.
And these are the ups and downs. These are the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, right? Um, but I will say, Stacey, is that every single time I gave you a challenge, you showed up. Every single time
Yes.
I gave you an assignment, you pushed a little bit farther. Every single
Hmm.
time you worked the program, right? Little by
I
little.
did. I did.
And so she's been a part of the ATM now for 2 years. But these past 2, 3 months, there was a
Yes.
switch or something. Like it was just like Stacey was always showing up and we would see her and whatnot, and she was doing her thing. But something in particularly switched these past 2, 3 months. And what was that? Can you touch upon that?
Well, like you said, you got to show up. You got to be consistent, and um, and so I started doing that. I basically did what Vanessa told me to do. Okay, Vanessa. Um, but so over the past year, I've had some successes. I've actually had over the past year more success connecting with parents and some of the homeschool families than connecting directly with principals. And so, what I kind of thought about is that if I'm not getting the exact the results that I want, then I have to do something different. You
Right.
know, I can't, what do they say the definition of crazy? I can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So what did I do? I would show up at Vanessa's monthly calls, and I would explain to her, like, this is what I'm working on, and then Vanessa would coach me. So it's more than just, okay, post consistently, and yeah, you got to post consistently. But where Vanessa helps even more is, you explain to her exactly what you're doing, your upcoming project, what you're working on, and what you've done so far, and she will help you kind of tweak that plan to get better results. So over the past few months, we've been doing that. And then, as I was going into 2022, I was like, this is going to be my year. It really is. This is going to be my breakout year with for this program. And so I kind of had a plan that I was going to, do a lot of outreach. I was going to be much more aggressive. And then Vanessa came with her challenge. And this is kind of what really almost flipped the switch. Um, Her
Oh, okay.
challenge,
So it was a challenge. By the way, this is my first time hearing this too, guys. I'm like, what happened? What happened this one? Because I need to know because we haven't really talked. So
yes,
okay, so it's a challenge, the
yes,
December challenge.
yes.
Okay.
Two things happen. Okay. Um, I mentioned a challenge, but let me back up a second.
Okay.
I start believing in myself as I believe in myself.
Mhm.
Doesn't that sound ridiculous? Because this is what I teach kids. This is what my program's all about. But I really had to have more confidence in my ability to go to our principal and say, this is my program. This will help your kids, your learners, and this is why. Before I was a little bit more reserved
Yeah.
because of my lack of having a background in education. I am not a teacher. I have no formal training in that. And so I felt a little bit intimidated. So I had to get over that. So that was one thing. And then, Vanessa talked about, her challenge. And what did that do?
Well, let
That
me
provided,
stop before we get into the challenge. Let me stop you right there because this is
yeah,
vital, and I didn't know this. So, okay, so you were struggling with confidence because you didn't have formal training and education, uh,
exactly.
which that's crazy to me, um,
Mm-hmm.
knowing you and this passion, right? But this is real. This is the real doubt that you had, right? Which was holding you
Yes.
back. And so this is what I teach my clients, whether they're private or ATM or whatnot, is that, and I just said this to another client the other day. I'm like, the reason you're not landing clients is you haven't gone through your own program, right? You are not walking what you preach, right? You're not talking what you preach. You're not
Right.
doing
Mm-hmm.
the work that you want people to do. So, and it's the same thing for you, right? You just said it. You're like, this is what I
Exactly.
teach. This is what I teach little kids to have confidence in themselves, to have pride, right? And so this is the real work. This is what I kept saying. I sound like a parrot,
Yes.
right? I sound like a parrot. I think I repeat myself over and over and over again, but I'm trying to hit it home that the strategy is the easy part, right? Like I know Stacey was banging her head with, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the things, right? Trying to be everywhere. And I get it. Millions of people are trying to do that, right? And it's overwhelming and it's not landing, it's not working, right? Until this switch,
Mm-hmm.
that mindset came and you're like, I'm over it. You just said it. You're like, I'm over it. I'm going to kill it in 2022. And yeah,
Yep.
I like my sales coach has taught me the results you want take courage. It
Exactly.
take
That is the word. It takes courage,
it takes
and
courage.
I
You
remember.
don't start with confidence up here, right? It takes work, little by little, to like
Hmm.
stretch yourself a little more and a little more, right? Until you
Yep.
get to be confident, and that's when the strategy is easy. Oh, you want me to go live? Okay, no problem. Where's the camera? Let me
Exactly.
say what I have to say, right? Like I say this all the time, and so it's not about the strategy, it's how you show up,
Yeah.
right? So that was the switch. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
Okay.
was definitely, mindset. That was definitely a big thing.
Yeah.
I always believed in my program,
Hmm.
but I didn't have the confidence to. I struggled with standing up to a principal,
Yeah.
someone who has been in education for 20, 30 years. And, some of them who had, PhD after their name because they have a doctorate in education. And I'm a mom. I mean, I have a college degree, I have a graduate degree, but not in education. And but my what drives me is the fact that I'm a mom and I see it. I see the what happens when when a child goes in an environment where he doesn't feel safe.
Oh
I see it.
God. Oh God, you just broke my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it every day, and so
Not feeling safe. Why are you trying to make me cry? Yeah,
yeah, well, that's what it is, and it's not
it
always
is.
about physical. It's not always that somebody is like beating me up or pushing me or that type of thing. When you don't feel emotionally safe. If you walk in the room, a building, and you feel I don't have any friends in this building, how are you going to learn? So, a lot of times,
Right.
people say, well, there's a kid or a parent talking about their kid, you know, um, he or she does not like school. And oftentimes, the first thing is like, oh, it's too hard. They don't like the academics. Maybe, but I would challenge that it's probably not that.
Yeah.
School may
Yeah.
be hard. The academics may be hard. But if you have to
Something
go,
else.
I'm sorry.
Said there may be something
Yeah,
else that's
exactly. There may
going
be
on more than
something
likely.
else
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because if you walk into that math class, you struggle in math, but you're also, worried about, no one likes you, or you're worried about when you're going to go out in the hallway, someone's going to push you, someone's going to tease you, someone's going to call you a name. How can you focus on math?
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of kids struggle academically. They do not achieve academically, to their ability because of what's going on in their head, the mental stuff, the emotional stuff. And that comes from not feeling safe. It's an awful feeling.
It
We
is.
are, social emotional learning, social. Human beings are social beings.
Yes,
We
we
are.
are. Yes, we
We,
are.
we, we are not built or designed to be in this world alone.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. It's
and
not normal. It's not. It's
it's not normal.
quarantining and like shutting down, and that's why there's depression. Lord knows I went through it. I even
Yes.
posted about it. I'm like, y'all think I'm doing good in 2020 because you see me landing stages and big clients. I was like, when I started to cry, going up the stairs for no damn reason, I'm like, oh, I'm not well. I am I am not well, right? And it's not normal. It's not normal for us to be
It's
social.
not normal.
Yeah.
So if you have a kid, who doesn't really have any friends at school, um, who's never invited to a birthday party,
Oh
when they
God.
have a birthday party, you send out 20 invitations and two people show up, or zero people show up. When all the kids hang out for the weekend, go to someone's house, have a sleep or whatever, and that kid's and one kid's not invited.
Yeah.
How can you imagine that kid feels?
Yeah.
Um,
It's brutal.
a couple years ago, when I first published "Why Is Different Awesome," a school saw the book, on social media and contacted me. So, we want to meet with you because we're thinking about doing some sort of disability awareness program. So I went and I met with them. And the story that they told, the why they thought this was important for their building was because at the time, and this was a middle school, at the time they had, I think, two or three students who used wheelchairs. And
Oh,
what they noticed, in between classes, before class, before school began, after school, and in between classes in the hallway, that students just walk past these students who use wheelchairs
Hmm.
as if they weren't there. They weren't mean to them. They weren't they didn't tease them or anything, but they just did not exist.
Right.
And the problem was, it's not that they had bad feelings toward these students who use wheelchairs, but they didn't know what to do. They
They
didn't
didn't
know
know how to engage.
what they were capable of, what their abilities were.
Mhm.
So it was just, just keep going.
Yeah.
And so imagine those students. It's like they were invisible.
Yeah. And
You
that's even
know,
worse, right?
nobody
Like this.
wants to exactly. Nobody wants to feel like that. I gave a presentation to adults at one time, about this topic, and this is kind of the analogy I used. A few years back, I went to a networking. I'm sorry. A few years back, a friend of mine came to a networking meeting,
Hmm.
and her for her first time. And I greeted to her. I said, "Hey, blah blah blah. Glad you showed up. Whatever." And so we had the meeting, and no one else talked to her. No one else talked to her, and she didn't return.
Hmm.
She did not return. So imagine you go to a networking meeting, you go to a party, a social event, whatever, and no one talks to you.
Yeah.
Why would you stay? Why would you return?
Right.
That's what this is like for many kids,
Yeah.
and that's what we have to address. But
Address.
kind of getting back to so I had to get over that kind of mindset thing that
Hmm.
why would any principal listen to me, to this mom, who developed this program in our home office? Why would anybody listen to me? So I got well, not kind of, I got over that.
I think
And
I'd say so.
yes, I got over that. And but then the next thing was, okay, so I kind of got over that, but I still have to get in front of the principal,
Hmm.
and so I did have this plan. I'm going to start talking to more people, more outreach, but I had to do that. I had to execute, and so so having your program gave me structure, it gave me support, and it gave me accountability. And
Right.
so that helped a lot.
Hmm.
You know, it's hard to do anything by yourself.
Yes, it is.
It's really hard. I mean, you can have the best plan. You can make your to-do list. I'm going to call 10 people. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And if you call, 3 people and nothing, you call 5 people, nothing. You start to get exhausted. You start to feel like, this is not going to work. But then we have accountability. You have people, supporters, cheerleaders, and you have someone, I say, Vanessa, I've been doing all of this, but I'm getting nowhere. We talked about this with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Hmm. I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and all this blah blah blah, but nothing's happened. And so what do we do? You brainstorm, we brainstorm, and you say, okay, Stacey, well, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? And then I start doing those extra things, and start getting results.
Yeah. Right. It was, like I said, Stacey has been an amazing client, and like I say, like a straight A student. Like she's actually doing the work, right?
Dean's list.
Dean's list. She's actually doing the work and pushed a little bit harder. And I know there are some times where she's like frustrated, or, Vanessa, it's not working, or, things like that. And um, then we did have the challenge, right? I have like these pop up challenge in the ATM. Now we have monthly challenges, monthly social media marketing challenges. A lot had to do with you. I changed up the ATM because I was like, hold up. I think Stacey just got all sick results because of the work she did in December, right?
Hmm.
Like, this is why I'm going to change it up, right? So talk to us about the results that you got during the challenge.
Just my January's challenge.
Yeah,
Okay,
or
so
December and January. Well, now that we have monthly challenges, but I think
yeah,
I pushed you guys in December. So what happened is I pushed the ATM clients in December, a time where everyone's chilling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's relaxing. Everyone's like, let me just take some time to be with my family or chill or whatnot. And that's totally fine. There's no judgment or whatnot. But I told my members, I'm like, listen, now is not the time to sleep. You guys come to me for results. You guys want to show up powerfully on social media, all these things. I'm like, now is not the time to sleep on your social media
Mm-hmm.
marketing. I posted it
Yep.
everywhere too, right? Because a lot of people were chilling, right? We're
Yep.
chilling. It's the holidays, things like that. So it's a lot less noisy on social media. And it's noisy to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you stay consistent and then just push a little more during the holidays, right? Rather than
You can
say,
get
I'm going to start
results.
January 1st, right? I'm going to start January 1st, right? Well, guess what? So are billions of people, right?
Exactly.
They're going to start the same time you are. Boom, January 1st. Hey guys, I have this brand new program, right? Where if you were hitting up people and all these lies and assumptions that we tell ourselves that no one's buying, no one's going to buy during the holidays, no one has money, right? This is the shift I had to make within myself because I was 100% guilty of this just 4 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm just like, no one's going to buy during the holidays. No one's going to do this. And then it was my coach, couple coaches, many coaches, that pretty much called me out and was like, when did you decide that? When did you decide that no one has money? Because if you think no one has money to spend on the holidays for your program, you've already made that decision not to show
Mm-hmm.
up. And so, guess what's going to happen? You ain't going to land clients, right? Because it was in my mind. I had
Uh-huh.
already made that decision that no one's going to buy. It's the holidays. Everyone's chilling. No one has money. It's all bullshit, right? There's
Exactly.
plenty of people always looking for what you have to offer 365 days, 24/7 out of the year, right? And so, sorry, so I got a little excited about it because I'm like, if any of you guys get quiet, ask the ATM members, any of you guys get quiet, don't come to me and bitch in January that, oh my God, you're frustrated. When I told you
Mm-hmm.
what to do. Okay, go ahead.
So, yeah, December you gave us the pop-up challenge, the push, and I did it, and yes, it did result in me, selling more books. But the other thing that your kind of reminder to not sleep through December did, it caused me to not only, to keep pushing social media, to get more sales. It caused me to get ready for January.
Right.
So if you wait, as you just said, Vanessa, if you wait until January 1 to do anything, for January, you're already behind. And
Right.
so I started to prepare. To prepare. I started making lists of all the people I'm gonna contact, and then I started off January 1, running,
Yes, you
and
did.
first week in January, I got a client. I got a SEL curriculum client, and I was
Hmm.
absolutely thrilled. This particular person, she actually contacted me in the fall,
Okay.
and we kind of went back and forth, trying to schedule a meeting, and it just, you know, after like three times, it just didn't happen, and I stopped following up,
Hmm.
like in September or maybe early October it was, and that was no, Stacey, you gotta follow up. You gotta be consistent. Not only with posting, if you post and someone shows interest, you gotta follow up with that person.
Tell them, Stacy. Tell them.
I posted. They showed interest. They actually reached out to me, and just because that meeting didn't happen, does not mean that they were not interested anymore.
Right.
And so I actually reached out to them in December, as part of the pop up challenge, but the meeting didn't happen until January.
Hmm.
And ta-da! I got that client, and then I kept going. I kept going. I got a homeschool client. I got a lot of meetings that are happening, and as you know, sometimes it happens right away. Sometimes there is a there's a sales cycle.
Hmm.
You don't
Right.
always get the yes. Especially if it's to a principal. Especially if the sale is it could be a couple $1,000s. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I got several meetings, and I'm just excited. I'm excited. I, you
Stacey,
know,
Stacey kept posting inside the ATM. I'm like, what is going on? And so she was posted, sold over 100 books. January
oh
3rd,
yes,
I think. Yeah. Sold over 100 books with one client, with one customer.
yes,
Purchased over 100 books in one sale.
yes.
Then she posted January 3rd. I'll never forget it. She posted, landed a client. I was like, who is this woman? I'm like, Stacey is on fire. What is going on? And she's like, I have a meeting with a principal or
Hmm.
whatever it was. Like all these things come, and I'm like, a shift happened. Something
Yeah, a
happened.
shift happened.
It's not just posting on social media. It's not just about being consistent, right? If you don't make that shift that Stacey
Hmm.
made in not just believing in her program, it's 100% that you believe in your program. Obviously, you
Hmm.
believe in yourself, right? And what you're marketing. I've always said this, people can smell that, they can smell the bullshit. They can see right through it. So then I went on LinkedIn. I'm like, what is going on? Like, cause I throw it on Facebook, and every once in a while when I go to LinkedIn,
Right.
I'm like, what? So I'm like, let me grab my phone. What is she up to? Right. And so I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You were showing up much different, much more
Much
confident than
different.
I've ever seen. I had other people messaging me. They're like, Lord, I see Stacey everywhere. I was just like, I know, right? She's like, who is she? I'm like, we're going to find out because I'm about to interview her. I'm like, she's my go
Uh,
to.
yes,
You said it. You
and
have to be
let's
ready
talk
to
about
take
LinkedIn for a
questions.
second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. So, one thing which you always tell us, you tell your clients, is you really got to, just focus on one social media. Where your ideal client, that's where you focus on. Yes, I do a little bit I do some things on Facebook and a tiny bit on Instagram, but my focus for the past, several months has been absolutely LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And so a couple of things that I've learned that you've taught me is that yes, be consistent, even if it seems as if no one is really engaging with you, because people are watching. There are lots of lurkers out there, lots of lurkers,
Hmm.
and so here's an example of this. Um, this woman, who she is one of the managers or directors of a local museum, she happens to also be uh, friends with the principal, who's using my program. And they happen to run into each other at something or another. And, and he told her about me. And so she found me on LinkedIn. And this was like months ago. She never commented. I don't even think we were connected, but she saw my post again and again and again. And so she reached out to me this fall about writing a blog for the museum.
All right.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, yay. And and so
Yes. Let's do.
yes,
Where's my
I
horn?
wrote the blog.
Where's my horn? Yes. Go ahead.
So I wrote the blog, and it's going to actually be published this month. And but something else happened. In January last month, she contacted me again, and she said, "You know what? The museum is going to do something related to superheroes, and you came to mind. And
I
so
wonder
we are
why.
now collaborating on this thing, which is going to happen in a couple months." But another thing happened in that meeting. So old Stacey, the Stacey of a few months ago,
Yes.
would have been, just satisfied and excited that I'm going to collaborate, and they want me to contribute this and blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? That's great, but I want to sell books.
Yes.
I want to
That's
sell
what I'm
books.
talking about.
And,
Yeah.
and, and, and I said that right at the meeting. I said, okay, but this is what I would like. you know, and they're like, that makes sense. And we haven't gotten the approval yet. They have to go take it to wherever they have to take it to.
Right.
But the fact that I said that this is what I need, and so I'm just very excited that I have come to where I am now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Well, it's
because
like,
again, a few months ago, I would have thought about that. I definitely would have thought about it, and I would have been too timid, to ask for it out of fear that if I start asking for things, then this other thing is going to go away.
mhm.
So
Asking for getting paid for your knowledge.
yes,
We want more of that, right?
yes,
We want more of that. That's
yes.
what we want. It's okay to make big money doing exactly what you love to do.
Hmm.
It's okay to make big money doing exactly what you love to do. So,
The more money you make, of course, that helps you on a personal, basic level. But the more money you make, the more people you can help. But whatever
right.
you do, whatever your mission is, whatever it is, you can do that more. You can do that bigger. The more clients you get, the more money you make.
The more
It's
people you can help. Yeah,
the more people you can help.
that's it. So, yeah, we want more money. It's okay to want
Yes,
more money. Hell
yes,
yes. I want more money
yes,
for you, and it's coming. Get ready
yes,
because now you're open for it. And I can't wait to
yes.
see what 2020 has in store. I mean, what? It's February 1st, and Stacey's already on a flight.
2022.
Yeah, 2022. Crazy.
Yes.
Um, well, it's been an honor working with you, Stacey. Like I've said, you have a humongous heart. Your passion in helping kids with their confidence, helping communities, all the things that you're working on is
Hmm.
it's what I call like the ripple effect. Like I'm passionate about helping badass women entrepreneurs, make money and land clients, but it's the ripple effect of this. Like you're my
Hmm.
legacy, right? And just like
Yes.
being able to work with someone, see, here I go, being able to work with someone like
Hmm.
Stacey and seeing the difference, the real difference that she's making in the world. It's just, I'm just so honored that you chose to work with me. So, all righty. So thank
Well,
you for hanging
I
out.
appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate all you do. Your methods work, and I like the way that you are always um, evaluating. You're looking at yourself, you're looking at what you offer, you're looking, at your results, and if it's time to change it up a little bit, you change it up. It's not like you create this thing and okay, for the next 20 years, I'm just going to do this. And you do that, and you encourage us to do it. You practice what you preach.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do. Well, I know you have a meeting at 3 o'clock, so you are free to go. Everyone, please give it up for Stacey Montgomery, who is about to crush it, who's been crushing it. Go support her, go like her, introduce her to a teacher, introduce her to
Yes.
associations that represent teachers, because what she has to offer is needed in this world big time. So thank you,
Well,
Stacey.
thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, guys. I told you I have been waiting for this one. I told you I have been waiting for this one. It's okay to cry during your live
It's
stream.
okay. Are we still on? Yes.
Yeah. Well, then I'm going to mute you, Stacey. There you go. You're right. Um, whatchamacallit, Amy? I'm not crying. You're crying. It's all right. I'm embracing my superpowers too, right? All right, guys. So thanks so much for joining us live. If you guys were live with us, for my replay viewers, hello, hello. And I also have something that I wanted to share with you guys. So I have an upcoming brand new masterclass that I'm going to be throwing down this month. And I am psyched. This thing has been brewing for some time. And I too am made a shift, and some stuff is aligning with me just super fast and organically and intuitively knowing what you guys are needing, right? So this masterclass is all about mapping out your social media marketing strategy. Okay, I am going to reveal in this power packed session. And when I say power packed, I'm leaving nothing back, right? So I'm going to show you guys exactly how I work with my clients step by step in creating a very simple, keep social media simple, y'all, very simple yet powerful social media marketing strategy that is going to land you your dream clients. I am also going to be revealing the same process that I use, right? My methodology, like Stacey says, I practice what I preach, right? And so within this masterclass, I'm going to be showing you guys how I decide what program I'm going to be marketing to, what I'm going to do on social media to throw down, how I'm going to convert clients, all of it. Plus, you guys will have a chance for some live Q&A questions, right? So if you guys want to throw down, it's going down on Wednesday, February 16th at 12 p.m. Central Time. The investment to reserve your virtual seat is $97 up until Sunday. That's the entry level for $97, right? After that, the rate will increase, okay? So trust me, you're going to want to be in the room for this one, all right? We're going to work on some mindset stuff. And then there's just some times where like I just want to share a lot of stuff with you guys, right? And I can't do it on just one webinar, but you guys have seen, the results that happens when I throw down with a client who is number one, an ambitious woman entrepreneur, right? Who is willing to do the work just like Stacey is, who is passionate in what they do, right? You gotta love what you do, or it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work working with me. I'm just being honest with you guys, right? Who wants to learn? Who's willing to learn, right? On how my clients are getting this explosive results that they're getting. Well, we're gonna talk about all of that and then some. Yeah, Brittany. So it is Zoom. Yep, it's gonna be on Zoom. It's not gonna be a live stream. None of that, okay? I'm going to drop the link inside the comments of this live stream, okay? So again, it's $97 right now, but I am going to increase the rate on this bad boy because it's going to be that banging. All right, guys? Thanks so much for joining me for another incredible client case study, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.